Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to cutting through the noise. Today, we're plunging into a concept that might just flip your understanding of how companies scale. Imagine this, a company hitting, say, seven-figure revenue, building truly cutting-edge AI models, maybe boasting tens of thousands of GitHub SARs, and all of it, with a tiny core team. We're talking just 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, it sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? Especially today. I mean, in tech, where scaling usually means, well, massive headcount.
Exactly. More people is often seen as the only path to growth.
And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive. Our mission today is to really unpack the fascinating philosophy behind building these incredibly lean, high-impact AI teams. We're going to explore how one leader sort of stumbled upon this counterintuitive truth,
Okay.
and the concrete, actionable strategies they actually use to not just survive, but, thrive, deliver groundbreaking results, and maybe even sidestep the common pitfalls of that rapid, sometimes uncontrolled growth.
All right.
You'll walk away with, I think, a completely new perspective on how efficiency, a very specific culture, and highly strategic choices can redefine what's actually possible in a small organization.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our story starts, I believe, with the founder's previous venture, DataQuest.
That's right, DataQuest, an online education startup. And pretty remarkably, it scaled to 30 people and hit $4 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue.
Wow.
And this was bootstrapped right during the peak of COVID.
Sounds like a classic success story.
Eh.
But then things changed.
Yeah, post-COVID, the whole online education market shifted, quite dramatically, actually, and they faced 2 really tough rounds of layoffs.
Ouch.
Yeah, the team shrank first from 30 down to 15, and then again from 15 to just 7 people.
Okay, so a significant cut.
A huge cut. And here's where the really unexpected twist comes in. A couple of months after these cuts, the founder noticed something genuinely surprising.
What was that?
Productivity and even, team happiness had actually increased.
Or increase.
Yeah. They were, in fact, more productive than they had been before the reduction.
That's completely counterintuitive.
Totally. And this outcome, it forced the founder to ask a really crucial question. How could significantly reducing the team size possibly lead to improved productivity?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why was less actually more in this scenario? What was going on in the bigger team that was maybe holding things back?
Well, the founder came up with 4 key hypotheses that emerged from this experience, and they give us a clearer picture of why larger teams can sometimes, maybe inadvertently, slow things down.
Okay, let's hear them.
So first, there was this drive towards over-specialization. As companies scale, they often hire for very specific functions.
Right, the marketing guru, the database expert, the front-end specialist.
Exactly. The problem is these specialists often can't really flex across different roles.
Ah, okay.
Which leads to silos, right? And a kind of fragmented approach to solving the company's core overarching problems. People stick to their lane.
I can definitely see how that creates bottlenecks. And if you throw remote work into that mix, does that make it worse?
Precisely. That was the second hypothesis. While remote work has, undeniable benefits, it demands a tremendous amount of intentional process, heavy syncing to keep everyone aligned.
Lots of Zoom calls.
So many calls. This constant coordination, those endless virtual meetings, they just eat into precious time. It makes it incredibly difficult for a fast-moving small team to maintain that real-time, on the same page collaboration.
Which leads right into the third point, I imagine, the burden of meetings.
You got it, the sheer burden of meetings. Once you get middle management involved, people whose primary job essentially is professionally to manage, well, calendars just get absolutely choked.
The meeting about the pre-meeting for the actual meeting?
Pretty much. It leaves precious little time for actual focused work.
Okay, so specialization silos, remote sync overhead, too many meetings. What was the fourth one?
The fourth was about senior talent getting trapped.
Trapped. How so?
In many traditional companies, your highly experienced senior people find themselves bogged down managing junior staff instead of using their deep expertise for high-impact contributions.
Ah, okay. So they become managers instead of builders or innovators.
Exactly. The founder even shared this specific anecdote. A 3-person team became significantly more productive after being cut down to just 1 senior individual.
Just one. Wow.
Yeah, because that senior person's time was completely freed up for strategic, hands-on work. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if that initial golden period of a company, What if it didn't have to end?
You're right. Every successful company seems to have that golden period. It's that sort of magical time. Everyone's perfectly aligned, focused on building the core product, figuring out the business model.
Like early Google with search or Microsoft really nailing Windows?
Yeah, exactly. That's peak productivity, peak focus.
But then comes what they call the downside of filling the edges.
Filling the edges.
Yeah. After that golden period, companies start hiring, a multitude of people to fill out the edges, a massive sales team, a marketing department, highly specialized engineers for every little niche.
Right.
We've all heard stories like the friend at Amazon who spent 2 years building, quite literally, a shopping cart button.
Okay, maybe a slight exaggeration, but I get the point. Super specialized roles.
It perfectly illustrates how roles can become so incredibly specialized, so narrow. It's not that the work isn't valuable, but it's very, very focused.
And the consequence of this traditional growth pattern is often, well, a tsunami of bureaucracy, endless sync meetings, priorities getting murky.
Absolutely. It really does make you pause and ask, what if that golden period where everyone is laser focused on the core product could somehow be sustained?
So is there an alternative model?
This is where Jeremy Howard's philosophy for building a company comes in. It deeply inspired the current approach.
Okay, Jeremy Howard, what's the core idea?
It's deceptively simple, really. Hire fewer than 15 generalists.
Fewer than 15. Generalists?
Right. And these aren't just, people who are good at a few things. They're individuals who can truly do everything across the stack. Meaning they understand and can actually contribute to all aspects of the company's operations, from the code itself to talking with customers to figuring out the go-to-market, everything.
So instead of hiring more people to fill those edges as the company grows,
Yeah.
you use AI and internal tools.
Exactly. AI and internal tooling become the sort of scalable workforce for those peripheral tasks. That's the idea.
How does that work in practice? Can you give an example?
Sure. For instance, they've heavily invested in building their own tools like Fast HTML and Monster UI. These aren't just random frameworks. They're essentially building block libraries designed to rapidly create other powerful internal tools.
Ah, tools to build tools. Meta.
Kind of, yeah. It allows a tiny team to build bespoke solutions for those edge cases without needing, a dedicated team for each little thing.
Makes sense.
And crucially, there's an almost radical emphasis on using simple, what they call boring technology.
Boring tech. Like not the latest shiny framework.
Exactly. The founder's quite vocal about this. You certainly don't need something like a complex Kubernetes cluster, which is designed for managing huge server deployments when you're a 3-person company.
Right. That feels like massive overkill.
It often is. Sticking to stable, well-understood tech minimizes complexity.
Okay, so why is boring tech so vital here? I mean, don't the cutting-edge tools offer performance boosts or something?
That's a great question. And the insight is that every complex framework, every bleeding-edge tool, it comes with a hidden cost, especially for a small team.
Hidden costs
Like needing specialists to manage it, the overhead of just keeping it running, a steeper learning curve for the generalists trying to jump in and help.
Okay, I see. It slows you down in other ways.
Exactly. So by sticking to stable, well-understood tech-think server-rendered HTML, maybe with lightweight JavaScript libraries like HTMX or Alpine for interactivity, they minimize dependencies, they reduce operational complexity.
And maximize the team's ability to just move fast.
Precisely. Maximize agility, minimize unnecessary cognitive load. It's all about speed and focus.
That makes perfect sense. Simplicity fuels speed. But this model, this focus on generalists, minimal structure, it sounds like it needs a very specific kind of person, a specific culture.
You've hit on a really critical point. This model demands an exceptionally high cultural bar. It's not for everyone.
What does that look like?
Well, first, you need people who genuinely want to understand everything the company is doing, and who can.
So engineers talking directly to customers.
Yep. And go-to-market people who aren't just selling, they can actually build something, or at least troubleshoot effectively.
Okay, breaking down traditional role boundaries.
Totally. You also need an environment of extremely high trust. People who are in it because they're building something truly valuable together, not for politics or personal advancement or building their own little siloed empire.
Low ego is key, I imagine.
Crucial. And perhaps most importantly, everyone needs to deeply care about the customers and maintain an unwavering focus on them. These aren't just like nice to haves. They're absolute non-negotiable prerequisites for this model to work.
Okay, let's make this concrete. You mentioned a case study, Sura OCR3. Tell us about that. How does it illustrate this generalist advantage?
Right, Sura OCR3. It's an advanced optical character recognition model. OCR, the tech that lets computers read text from images or documents.
Okay.
This particular model is pretty powerful. It's got 500 million parameters, supports 90 languages,
Wow.
and gets like 99% accuracy on some really challenging internal benchmarks. Stuff like complex math equations. It even generates character-level bounding boxes and uses the PDF text itself for grounding. It's a genuinely complex, state-of-the-art AI model.
Okay, sounds impressive. So what's the fascinating part for us? Who built it?
This is the kicker. A single research engineer and the founder handled the entire process, end to end.
Just two people for all of that.
Just two people. An entire process means everything. Talking to customers to figure out what they needed, digging into academic papers for the latest research, designing the model architecture, prototyping it, the actual model training.
Which is mostly data cleaning, right?
Which, as they'll tell you, is like 90% data cleaning. Then building the intricate data pipeline libraries needed, writing the inference code so the model could actually be deployed, and finally, integrating it directly into the product.
Wow. Okay, let's pause on that scope. Just thinking about a traditional big company. A project like that would involve how many teams? 4, 10?
Easily.
Yeah.
4 to 10 different teams, maybe more. You'd have research, data engineering, model training, infrastructure, product integration, QA.
And what's the downside of that traditional approach?
Well, it inevitably leads to massive context loss every time there's a handoff between teams.
Right, information gets dropped or misunderstood.
Exactly. It creates inefficient handoffs and very slow feedback loops. You might talk to a customer today, get some crucial insight, but it could take months for that feedback to actually filter down through all the teams and impact the model training or the final product development.
Months. Okay. So in stark contrast, these generalists working across the stack,
Yeah.
they achieve something different.
Completely different. They gain what you could call seamless context because there are no handoffs, right? The same person, or maybe two people, carry that context from start to finish.
Okay.
This enables tight integration across everything the company does, research, engineering, customer interaction, and the result is very, very fast feedback cycles.
So you can iterate much more quickly.
Way more quickly. And AI itself plays a supportive role here, too. It's used to take on the easy, low-leverage pieces, like maybe building some of those data pipeline libraries.
Automating the grunt work.
Basically, yeah, freeing up the humans for the higher level, more strategic, more impactful work.
So the core takeaway from this real-world example is pretty clear then.
Loud and clear. More people does not automatically equal more productivity. Sometimes it's the opposite.
Okay, so this philosophy, it sounds compelling, the case study is powerful,
Yeah.
but how do you actually do it? How do you put it into practice day to day? This is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the operational realities?
Great question. It really boils down to a few key operational principles. First, you have to be rigorous about hiring senior generalists.
And senior here isn't just years on the resume.
No, not necessarily. It's about maturity. It's about finding people who, when they hit a problem, their first instinct is, okay, I'm going to figure out how to solve this.
Ownership.
Exactly. They're willing to do whatever it takes, and they care enough to actually iterate with the customer until the thing is truly solved. They're problem solvers with a deep sense of ownership.
Okay, so it's a mindset, not just a CV. What about avoiding that classic tech trap of over-engineering everything?
That's another huge piece.
Oh.
Actively resisting the urge to overcomplicate things.
The engineer's temptation.
It's real. There's often this inherent drive to build the most elegant, complex system imaginable, deploying a Kubernetes cluster for a problem that maybe just needs some simple data extraction.
Right.
This philosophy aggressively advocates for the simplest possible thing that works. They often reference that famous Hadoop versus shell script blog post.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Where a simple shell script running on one powerful machine could actually outperform a massive, complex Hadoop cluster for certain jobs. It's a great testament to the power of simplicity over needless complexity.
Keep it simple. And for a team this lean, this focused, I imagine working together in person becomes pretty important. Is that part of it?
It is. There's a strong conviction, at least in this case, that for a small, fast-moving team like this, working in person is almost non-negotiable.
Why is that so critical for them?
Because those informal, spontaneous interactions you get just sitting next to someone, they can eliminate dozens of Slack messages or scheduled meetings.
The quick question over the shoulder.
Exactly. It's about process minimalism taken to its extreme. Collaboration becomes almost instinctive, fluid. Formal process, they believe, is kind of the death of this really fast collaboration and tight feedback loop. It just slows everything down.
Okay, minimal process, in-person work. What about the tech architecture itself? How do they keep that simple while building advanced AI?
Again, ruthless simplicity. They aggressively reuse components wherever possible, whether it's for on-premise deployments or their API services.
Build once, use many times.
Pretty much. And the technology stack itself is kept super simple. No complex front-end frameworks like React.
Really, no React?
Nope, just server-rendered HTML, maybe with some lightweight JavaScript tools like HTMX and Alpine for adding interactivity on the front end.
Interesting. Back to basics almost.
In a way, yeah. And the code itself needs to be clean, modular, really well documented. That's essential because it makes it easy for AI tools to potentially add to it or understand it later on.
So the simplicity enables AI augmentation too.
Right. All of this feeds back into that idea of process minimalism. Minimize bureaucracy, foster very high trust, encourage continuous informal discussions. The guiding rule is crystal clear. If you feel like someone's going to need a lot of management, don't hire them.
Harsh, but probably effective in this context. So if you're not adding headcount in the traditional way, how does this model actually scale? When customer demands grow or the product gets more complex, is AI really the answer to filling all those edges?
That's the bet. It's a key part of their strategic choice. For example, instead of hiring armies of forward-deployed engineers to sit at client sites and spend months customizing document parsing for every unique customer need.
Which is a common model in enterprise software.
Very common. Instead, the plan is to train AI models to handle that complexity directly.
How would that work?
Essentially, you build a model that can intelligently loop over customer outputs until it gets to the right state. It learns the variations itself, effectively replacing a whole chunk of the traditional organization that would normally be dedicated just to those bespoke manual solutions.
That's a pretty powerful and maybe ambitious vision. But does this lean approach have a breaking point? Is there a limit? A point where you just have to scale headcount traditionally?
That's a really important question, and the founder is actually very open about it. They admit they don't know exactly when or where this lean model might fail or hit its ultimate limits.
So there's an ongoing experiment.
In a way, yes,
Uh,
but they emphasize that the key is being able to say no.
Say no to what? Customers, features.
To complexity, essentially. Many of those edges, those peripheral features or customizations that traditional companies hire armies for, they're actually choices. You can choose to hire a bunch of people to tackle them head on, or you can choose to solve them a different way, maybe with AI, maybe by simplifying the requirement, maybe by just not doing it right now. Even if that different way is slightly less efficient in terms of immediate short-term revenue,
It might be better long term.
it might be far better for the long-term company trajectory and health by maintaining that crucial focus and agility. It's about strategic trade-offs.
That brings us back to the culture, doesn't it? You need a very specific kind of team to operate with that discipline, that focus. How do you build and sustain that?
Yeah, culture is everything here. It starts with defining the roles, but making them deliberately overlapping. They have three core roles, basically: research engineer, full stack engineer, and go-to-market.
Okay.
But here's the crucial part. There's significant overlap. Everyone talks to customers. Everyone builds product in some way, shape, or form.
So the go-to-market person isn't just doing sales calls.
No, definitely not. That go-to-market role is a true generalist combination. It blends traditional sales, marketing, customer support, maybe even some light product input, all rolled into one.
Wow, intense. And I could imagine in such a small, tightly knit team, internal politics could just be absolutely fatal.
You're spot on. They believe politics are the absolute death of small teams. So the goal is minimal ego.
Easier said than done sometimes.
For sure, but they actively screen for it. They want people who only care about the work, the people around them, and the customers. People who aren't going to fight tooth and nail for their idea just because it's their idea, especially if it harms collaboration or the company's direction.
How else do they foster this?
Yeah.
Compensation.
Yeah, strategic compensation is key. They make a point of paying top of market salary.
Yeah.
The underlying belief is simple. You can hire fewer people with higher salaries and get more done. Pay premium for premium, highly leveraged talent.
And I guess Offering really meaningful work must be a huge draw as well.
Absolutely. Offering big challenges in scope, that chance to work across the entire stack, to ship things end to end and see the direct customer impact almost immediately, that acts as a powerful magnet.
It attracts a certain kind of person.
Exactly. It attracts a specific type of individual who thrives on that broad ownership and meaningful contribution, not someone who just wants to stay in a narrow specialization.
So beyond just the technical skills, what are you really screening for when you hire someone for this team?
They really emphasize screening for two things: low ego and GSD.
GSD.
Get stuff done.
Ah, makes sense.
They want people who will ship, not just talk about shipping. People with a bias for action. And they note this can actually be harder to really discern in a purely remote hiring setting.
Interesting point.
And maybe the most important hiring lesson they learned: patience.
Patience in hiring. In tech, that's rare.
It is. The founder learned that the worst hires they ever made happened when they felt pressured to fill a role quickly. The best hires came from patient, deliberate searches for the best person, period, even if the specific role wasn't immediately open.
So like a sports team drafting the best player available, not just filling a position need.
Exactly that analogy, prioritizing exceptional talent and cultural fit over just plugging an immediate hole in the org chart.
That's a really bold strategy, especially when things are moving fast. Okay, so let's talk scaling again. If you're explicitly not just adding more people as the default, how do you scale productivity? How do you keep getting more done without just expanding the headcount?
It really comes down to strategic investment in the resources you do have.
Meaning?
Well, first, as the company grows and has more resources, you can raise your salary bands even higher. Hire even more experienced, higher caliber people into those same generalist roles. You're essentially increasing the output per person.
Okay, leveling up the existing role.
Exactly. Second, you invest more heavily in compute resources. Imagine giving one top researcher access to, say, 64 high-end GPUs compared to maybe just 8 previously.
That's a massive force multiplier for their individual productivity right there.
Huge, especially in AI research and training.
And I imagine a big part of that strategic investment goes back to the AI tools themselves, the ones that help the team operate.
Absolutely. You continuously invest in building and refining those internal AI tools that fundamentally multiply productivity, tools that abstract away many of those edges, that complexity that would otherwise require hiring more people.
So it's about empowering that small, highly skilled team to achieve disproportionate output.
That's the core idea: leveraging automation and intelligent systems to let a few people do the work of many.
Which brings us, I guess, to the ultimate question. How do you even find these exceptional senior generalists? They sound like unicorns. Where do you look beyond the usual job boards?
Yeah, they are rare, and traditional channels aren't always the best. They've found that, surprisingly maybe, open source contributions and platforms like Twitter or X now are incredibly valuable sources.
Really? Twitter?
Yeah. The thinking is that doing good work and putting it out in public, sharing insights, code, projects, naturally attracts people who are already aligned with this mission, people who want to build things in this focused, high-impact way. It acts like a filter.
Interesting, a sort of self-selecting talent pool. And the interview process itself sounds quite different, too, not just whiteboard coding, I assume.
Definitely not just whiteboarding. It's a pretty rigorous 3-step process, really designed to assess true fit and capability, not just theoretical knowledge.
Okay, walk us through it.
Step 1 is just a short chat, but it's more like a peer-to-peer discussion. You collaboratively try to tackle a real challenge together. The goal is to see how the candidate thinks, how they interact, how they problem solve in real time.
Okay, collaborative problem solving, then what?
If that goes well, step 2 is a paid project.
Paid.
Yep, typically around 10 hours of work, and they compensate the candidate maybe around $1,000 or so. This is where candidates actually build something together with the team.
Like a mini work trial.
Exactly. It allows both sides, the candidate and the team, to really assess the fit, the working style, the actual capabilities in a hands-on real-world scenario. Much better than just talking about code.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And the final step?
The final step after reviewing that project work is an in-person interaction, really focused on culture fit.
Ah, the human chemistry check.
Exactly. Just gauging that overall cultural alignment, seeing how everyone interacts face-to-face, off-screen. It's the crucial final piece.
And this whole process, does it work?
Apparently, yes. They report an impressive 40% success rate, meaning 40% of the people they actually interview end up getting hired.
Wow, that's incredibly high for tech hiring.
It really is. It shows the value of being patient, being deliberate, and using a process that genuinely assesses fit and real-world skill, not just interview performance.
So wrapping this up, today, we've really explored a bold, maybe even radical blueprint for building high-impact teams. One that just fundamentally challenges that conventional wisdom that more people equals more progress.
Yeah, we've seen how focusing on these lean structures, really cultivating true generalist talent, making incredibly smart, simple technology choices,
In nurturing that specific culture of high trust and ruthless execution.
can lead to genuinely incredible results and maybe even foster faster innovation than bigger, more complex teams. It really is about building smarter, not just bigger.
Indeed. This approach reminds us that scaling productivity isn't solely about adding headcount. It's maybe more about strategic investment in the right people, the right resources like compute, and the right automation, especially AI.
Exactly. So this raises, I think, an important question for you, our listener, to maybe ponder. Thinking about your own work, your own organization, what edges, what complexities might be simplified, or maybe even eliminated entirely if you applied this kind of ruthless prioritization and focus on the core impact.
Yeah. What could you achieve by thinking differently about scaling? Focusing on scaling productivity, maybe through leverage and tools, instead of just scaling headcount. Something to think about.